So sometimes we know about suicide bombers for political reasons. And then sometimes political prisoners go on a hunger strike and they say, I'm not going to eat until this happens or that happens, and they, even to the degree that they will starve themselves to death. Sometimes people commit suicide because they are burdened with so many problems and they don't know how to deal with those problems. They can't take the stress anymore, so they kill themselves. Sometimes people commit suicide because of love. This happens in India sometimes. A boy or a girl of a different religion fall in love. Their parents try to break them up, and so they both kill each other. He kills her and then he kills himself. Or they both jump off a cliff together. So people commit suicide for a wide variety of reasons. Now, sometimes people don't commit suicide, but they threaten suicide. Okay? Mahatma Gandhi was good at this. If you, the British, don't do this, I'll kill myself. And so the British were, no, don't. And so he was pretty good at making this threat. Sometimes adolescent girls do this. And sometimes this is a form of blackmail. They don't really intend to kill themselves. They just tell their mother this in order to manipulate them. That's a very unwise thing to do. In other words, sometimes people threaten suicide in order to manipulate others. Okay? So, if somebody that you know online has threatened many times to kill themselves, it may be that they don't intend to kill themselves. It may be that they want attention. Maybe, for whatever reason, they want people to take notice of them. They want to appear to be different from others. They want people to make a fuss about them, so they keep on threatening to commit suicide. But when somebody does threaten to commit suicide, you should take it seriously. Now, I cannot advise you on your online friend, but if you have a good friend and he or she rings you up and says, I just don't know what to do, I'm going to kill myself, talk to them for as long as you possibly can, because sometimes they might do it. So when somebody intends to kill themselves because they are burdened with so many problems, what they need is somebody to talk to. And in almost all cases, if there is somebody there to talk to and to listen to them, they won't do it. So if you're in that position where somebody comes to you and the best thing you can do is ask them to come and see you, or to go and visit them, or to keep talking to them on the telephone and try to explain to them that you sympathize with them, that you understand how they feel, but at the same time telling them that the problem with committing suicide because you have a problem is that no problem is serious enough to kill yourself for. So your girlfriend ran away. Now I know people who want to commit suicide because their girlfriend ran away. I know people who want to commit suicide because their girlfriend won't run away. How come only 2 people got that joke? The most important thing you can do to help is to talk to them and to explain to them that this is not the way to... the problem may get better, or it may not. But if you're dead, it doesn't matter. So there's always a possibility of getting out of the problem. And you need to help them to see that that is the case. A long time ago, a man in Singapore came to me. His son used to come to my Dhamma talks, and he had terrible problems, financial problems, very serious financial problems. And he rang me up and he said he was going to kill himself. And he rang me up to say goodbye. And he was crying the whole time. And I said to him, look, if you're going to kill yourself, do this. Don't kill yourself. Kill your wife and children. And he was so shocked by that. Then he completely broke down and cried. And when he stopped crying a bit, I said this to him, look, if you want to kill yourself, if you kill yourself, your wife, and particularly your 2 sons, they will never forgive themselves. They will always, for the rest of their life, they will be thinking, if only I'd have done this, if only I'd have done that, I could have stopped my father from killing. They'll blame themselves, and they'll blame themselves forever. You will leave in your family, your wife and your children, such devastation, it would be better to kill them. And then the government will hang you for committing murder. So your problem is solved. Now, of course, I didn't mean that. I wanted to shock him into thinking about what he was doing. When a person commits suicide, it usually devastates their family. They literally don't just kill themselves, they kill their family, particularly their children or the people who love them. It's something you've really got to think about before you do it, and somebody who is desperate often doesn't think about that. What you should do is, when they come to you and they're saying that, listen to them. Listen to what they're saying. Give them a little bit of advice. But more than speaking to them, listen to them. And usually you can talk them out of it. I'll tell you another story. You want another story? Okay, last story. I was in Germany. I was staying in a Buddhist society. And one day I heard the front gate of the temple open. And I saw one man pushing another man into the temple in a wheelchair. I was sitting in the library. And then I heard them come into the building. And then the man in the wheelchair came into the library. He was a big, strong guy, only young, only early 20s, very well built. And he told me his story. He told me that about 1 year before, he and his friends and his girlfriend were driving in a car, and the driver was driving too fast, and there was an accident. The friend was killed, the girlfriend was killed, and his neck was broken. So from his waist down, he would never be able to walk again. And the doctors had told him, if in 12 months, they'd give him some exercises to do, massaging his legs, and the doctors had told him, if in 12 months there is no improvements in his legs, it probably means that he'll never walk again. And then he told me that he used to be a sportsman, and I could see that he had a very good body. He was very active in sports. He enjoyed soccer and things like that. And now, for the rest of his life, he thinks he's going to be confined to a wheelchair. And so he's decided, he told me, he's decided if in 12 months he can't walk again, he's going to kill himself. And then he said, I've gone to a Muslim teacher and asked them what they think. And I've gone to a Christian pastor and asked them what they think about that. He'd gone to all different people, and now he's come to a Buddhist monk to ask me what I think. So then he said to me, what do you think about my decision? If I can't walk in 12 months from now, I'm going to kill myself. And I said, I think that's a good idea. Now, the man who was standing beside him, the man who had pushed him in, was his best friend. They had been school friends together. Then when they got jobs, one went here, one went there. Then when he'd had this accident, the friend came back and has been helping him. A really good friend. So that friend was standing behind the wheelchair. And when I said, I think it's a good idea, you should kill yourself, the friend went, no, don't say that. And I said, yeah, I think that's a good idea, you should kill yourself. And then he was very shocked, because everybody else, the Christians, said, no, don't kill yourself. And this Buddhist monk, Venerable Dhammika has a reputation of being a bit crazy. This Buddhist monk had said, yeah, kill yourself. So he was quite shocked. And then I said, how have you decided to kill yourself? And he said, I've thought of taking sleeping tablets. I said, oh, that's a good idea. I said, can I recommend a good way for you to kill yourself? And the man standing beside him went, and he was very shocked at what I said. I said, look, I can give you some good advice on how to kill yourself. Listen to me. And at that time, I was living in Sri Lanka. I was visiting Germany. And I said to him, look, I live in Sri Lanka. I live in the city of Kandy. And in Kandy, when you go to the big market, one thing you notice is lots of children with polio. Okay? You may get a similar thing here. They walk on, their legs are all thin, and they walk, they can't stand up, they walk on all fours. And they put pieces of rubber on from old tires on their knees, and they beg from people. And they usually get lung problems because they're down on the ground and the dust gets in their face and everything. And I said, there's lots of these kids there. In the market in Kandy, there might be 20 or 30 of these kids. You go there every day, they're begging. I said, their life is really rough because there's no social service in Sri Lanka. There's nobody who takes care of them. Often their parents have kicked them out. Their life is really hard. I said, look, how about this? Sell everything you have, your house, your business, your car. Move to Sri Lanka. I'll help you. Get a house near the market and spend the rest of your life looking after these kids because they don't want to kill themselves. They're struggling to survive. Now, I estimate that trying to live in Sri Lanka, going down the street in a wheelchair is going to be pretty difficult. I reckon looking after those kids, because some of them are quite rough, they've been living on the streets for years, I reckon that'll be a really tough job. I estimate that in about 5 years you'll be dead. So how about that? How about you come to Sri Lanka and kill yourself with exhaustion, helping those crippled kids who do not want to kill yourself, who do not want to kill themselves. He was silent. We talked a little bit more and he left. 1 year later, I was back in Germany again. And guess who turned up? The guy in the wheelchair. Only this time, it wasn't his friend who was pushing him, it was his girlfriend. So the doctors have told him that he's not going to walk, but he's got himself a new girlfriend. They invited me to their flat for dinner. The subject of killing himself didn't come up. But I could tell that he decided not to kill himself. That's my suicide story. One last question before we finish, maybe. Okay.
My name is Tanjung. There is a very interesting article called Where There is the Dhamma, There is Solution. So please tell us why the Dhamma can solve every problem. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I haven't read that article.
But there is that article.
Now, I'm not sure that the Dhamma can solve every problem. In fact, I don't believe that all problems can be solved. I can think of lots of problems which do not have a solution. So sometimes we have to live with certain problems. Like, for example, maybe you don't like the color of your hair. Well, you've just got to live with it. I had a friend once who was very short. He was very self-conscious about being short. He has to live with it. There's no way in the world he can become tall. So sometimes we simply have to endure or learn to live with certain problems. So I'm not sure that the Dhamma has a solution to every problems. But many of the problems that we have to endure are self-created through our ignorance, our impatience, particularly our greed. We often create problems for ourselves which wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us. So those types of problems, I think, certainly can be managed or even solved by living by the Dhamma. I think that is certainly correct. Then there are other types of problems which are not self-created, but they might be able to be fixed with the Dhamma too. So, for example, they have found that mindfulness meditation can actually be quite good for you, for your physical health. Now, they have shown that it can be very good for your psychological health. That makes sense. But there is a connection between the mind and the body. Sometimes the state of the body can affect the mind. Sometimes the state of the mind can affect the body. So sometimes certain states of mind can help cure or heal certain physical complaints. Now those physical complaints may not be caused by you, they may be just bodily sicknesses. And yet some of them, certainly not all, but some of them might be able to be alleviated or improved or sometimes cured with meditation. So there are some problems that are not self-created which can be helped with the Dhamma. That's what I would say. Yeah. Okay. All right then, one more. Definitely last one. Any on this side? No. Huh? No? Okay, that one there.
Nama Budaya Bante. I have two questions. One is that it's been told that Bante was born in Australia, which is with no Buddhist tradition. What inspired Bante to follow the Buddha's teaching in the relative young age? This is my first question. My second question is about the Buddha's teaching itself, which is the difference between the Buddha's teaching with other religion is the no soul or anatta. Is the concept or no soul. What I'm confused is that if no soul, which is what I'm now and what I'm later second from now, is a different soul. What's the, that confusing with the concept of karma itself, which is what I do today, the good deed that I'm done, who reward for, who take benefit for the good karma that I did now, which is second letter is different soul.
So you're saying that if you're changing all of the time,
yeah.
What you do now,
yeah.
How can the karma affect you? Because
exactly.
in 1 week you'll be a completely different person.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good question.
Yeah. Thank you, Bante.
I hope I've got a good answer for it. Okay, so your first question is, I was born in a country, when I was young, there was almost no Buddhism in Australia. So how did I become a Buddhist? Well, I always had an interest in religion. I used to go to church, and I enjoyed going to church, and I learnt a lot. And much of what I learnt was very good for me. I didn't learn anything bad in church. They taught us to love our enemies and to forgive people who harm us and to help others. All good teachings. But there were some things that I couldn't accept, especially as I got a bit older. I never really figured out the idea of God. I had a problem with that. And I had a problem with the idea that I have to be punished for my sins, but Jesus loved me so much that he was punished for my sins, so I don't have to be punished for them. So some of the ethical ideas, I had no problems with. I thought, and I still think, they are very high and lofty ethical ideas. But some of the theological ideas, I couldn't understand those. So I started looking for something else. One day I found a book on Buddhism, and that made 100% sense to me as soon as I read it. Now, I didn't understand everything, but what I did understand made perfect sense to me. So from that time onwards, I started reading more books about Buddhism, and then I got completely confused. Because I didn't know the difference between Hinayana and Mahayana and this yana and that yana, and then Zen Buddhism and Pure Land. Oh my God, what the hell is all that?